right. So, hi, everybody. My name is Natalie, and you can call me the esoteric practitioner. And my business is Sacred Path Transitions. And really, my background is in a lot of esoteric practices. So, like meditation, hypnosis, astrology, mediumship, energy work. I mean, I feel like I've dabbled in a lot of it. And so that's why it is the esoteric practitioner. And next to me is my partner in many ways, Andrew Cox. So, Andrew, can you please tell us more about you?
Yeah, my name is Andrew. I own Nexus Occult Books and Oddities here in Tucson. I also own Nexus Academy of Magic and Esoteric Sciences. I have been a practicing occultist for over 20 years, as well as a horrible book hoarder. I use a combination of ceremonial magic and witchcraft in my personal practice, and I know a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff.
So, in essence, that's kind of how we met,
Yeah.
actually. So we are, and it's hollow in here. So, but we are actually in the Nexus Occult's names.
Names. It's called Names.
I mean,
Nexus
yeah,
Academy of Magic and Esoteric Sciences.
yeah. So Andrew was really, really the brain, and yeah.
Yeah, but you were a big help for the inspiration, though.
So we pretty much tag team the occult practices, the occult arts, and I'm on one end of it and he's on the other. And so today, I really my whole thing is that I want to bring community in a different way, and maybe not so much community because you're doing the community part.
Right.
I'm bringing more of the conversation and the way to connect, and that's what this first little conversation is really about, just being inspired for conversation, connection. What I've noticed a lot in conversations outside of Andrew and I, or in just the world at large, that people are hoping for authenticity. They're hoping for connection. They're tired of hiding behind, let's say, their veils in order to survive, in order to not have their information used against them. Just like there's so many things, and that's why I'm just kind of like, you know what? Like, let's all be brave. Let's have a conversation, and let's just see where these conversations take us. I really want to really put it out there that it's all about authenticity and vulnerability and just being true to who we are.
Right, definitely. As far as Nexus goes, that's our main driving point, is to grow and strengthen our occult community. One of the things that I hear most often from our customers is that they are relieved to finally have a place where they can be themselves, where they, in their normal life, their muggle life, that talking about being a witch or a magician or anything occult is taboo in every sense, even with their own family members. So we have a lot of people who are very occult in the true sense of the word, hidden from view, where they've had to hide their practices and who they are. And then when they can come to Nexus and Names, they can be themselves. They can find other like-minded people where there's no gatekeeping, there's no judging. We're neutral ground for everyone. We're here to grow and build that community. That's our main thing.
Yeah, and I also work with other practitioners, one being at a place called Four of Wands here in Tucson, Arizona. And her and myself, her name is Shadow. She's also one of the vendors that are outside of Nexus, or inside, I should say, inside of Names. So she and I are really big about, just being authentic and being yourself and allowing for a safe place for people. So although it doesn't have the same spin or the same energy or the same, I guess, energy as Nexus does, it is another place in Tucson that is wanting and looking to be a kind of like a hug. Like, let's call it like that, because both Shadow and I, we're two people that not necessarily like to give hugs, but we hope that our energy embraces you and allows you to feel safe to be yourself. And that's been the whole goal of Four of Wands for a very long time, it went through its own alchemical process, I should say. And right now, it is experiencing a death positive uh, environment. And what that means is it's all about celebrating the spirit of something, whether that is, the undying process of creation and how something gets started and dies. And then you just kind of celebrate that experience, or even in the taboos of life, which is death. Like, so Shadow being a taxidermist and also a wet specimen, cultivator or creator.
Creator, yeah.
So she's all about that. I'm a medium psychic, and I work with a lot of consciousness outside of the physical reality. And so there we're just creating this space and environment to embrace people where they're at on their self-discovery journey, and just saying, hey, like we are going through the alchemical process as well, the spiritual alchemical process, to find that true gold. And it's been a journey, and so we're here to kind of hug you along the way. Whereas here is like, and that's the way we've called, I mean, I've said it to many people, is that Nexus is Four of Wands, twin flame.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a nice balance and dichotomy between both stores where with Four of Wands, it's really service based, not completely, but for the most part, where you can come in and get a reading from Natalie or Shadow or Beth or
All the other practitioners.
Ashley, there you go.
So yeah, we're the creation part.
Right.
Whereas you guys are more like the knowledge base. Like,
Right.
So that's like, if we were to think about the brain, so the brain is on one side logical and the other side is
Artistic,
creation
yeah.
and practice and everything. So we are both, and we work very harmoniously together. And it's just been a journey to kind of watch that go. I'm kind of trying to get my, like, so less of the mic on my face and more. So again, kind of like working with, well, where could we go from here? And this is a total like whim. I told Andrew, I was like, what, I know, like, I want to get something out there too. We've done lives together on Instagram, but more importantly, like, I just wanted to keep a conversation going versus like the Instagram stuff. And I might be a little bold today, but I'm a triple Leo in many ways, so I kind of don't know anything else but to be bold and courageous. So I wanted to have a conversation with Andrew about like what our interpretation, or what our understanding, perception, like whatever we want to call it, the way we see and experience connection. What does that mean? So where it kind of started, in a sense of, it's been, creating in my head for a very long time. But I got a letter the other day in the mail, which like kind of just shocked me that, and like I said, I'm going to go bold, so people might get upset. So I do apologize if I upset anybody in this, but a Jehovah's Witness put information in my letter, and I was like, wow, they're now spending money to put stuff. And I'm not a big, supporter of going and knocking on people's doors and kind of like preaching. But it does strike up conversation, like what they talked about. And so before I get into what was at my door, I should say, or in my mailbox, I kind of want to ask you, what inspired, and you already talked about it to an extent, but if you can elaborate, like what is the core, the goo, that thing the glue that holds things together as to why you created Nexus?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been fascinated with anything that's odd or strange. I saw Ghostbusters when I was 4, and that really started an obsession with initially parapsychology, ghosts and stuff like that, extraterrestrials and cryptozoology. And then when I was 9, I saw The Exorcist, and that kind of broke my brain in the sense that it opened me up to this huge possibility of these things called demons interfering with your life. And then so I started researching it, and there wasn't a lot of books for kids on like demonology and the occult, so I started reading adult books, and I've just been on a pursuit ever since to find out everything I possibly can about the unseen world. and I always found it so odd that no one wanted to talk about it, and that it was like something that would be forbidden. Like we weren't allowed to talk about ghosts and aliens at the dinner table, which just wasn't something that we did. So Nexus was born out of my obsession with my pursuit for the occult, and also I love to collect things. I've always collected things as a kid, especially, but I started collecting books, and then it just grew and grew until I had almost 23,000 of them. But throughout my collecting, though, was
It's
also,
just wild to
I know
me,
it's insane, right?
23,000.
I know. But I also lacked community,
Right.
which was a big thing because I didn't have anybody to talk to about this. I didn't have friends that were in this, and that was always very frustrating to me because there was no outlet to discuss the things that I was reading, and these different perceptions of the world that's unseen. And so that was really I don't really care about money. Obviously, we need to pay bills here at Nexus. That's fine. But we're not profit driven. We're community driven because I wanted to have a place where Tucson's very large, but also very fragmented occult community could come together and learn from each other and have a space where they are safe to engage with others without judgment. It's not to say that you won't hear opinions that you might not like. That's irrelevant. What your opinion is on something. It's just hearing someone else's point of view is important. I love talking with people who don't see the world the way I do. It allows me to understand where they're coming from, and hopefully they'll give me the same courtesy and understand where I'm coming from. So once Nexus opened a year later, we opened Names, and with the goal for that being to educate the community. It's one thing to sell people books, but that's theory. How do we help with practice? And we've been doing it here for about 4 months. I think we're in our 5th month of Names, and we've had everything from intro to witchcraft, intro to tarot, numerology. We've had a couple lectures by Dr. Paul Cunaneris, Ryan Gable. We did a shadow work class last weekend that was huge. We got a presentation on Kenneth Anger coming up. We even have classes like on necromancy and scrying coming up. So we're really trying to bring in the best people we can get our hands on to educate.
Or I would say not necessarily get your hands on, but they're just kind of coming.
Oh, true. No, definitely. Yeah, it's odd. Yeah.
Like, I get amazed because like Andrew gives me updates regularly and is like, you wouldn't believe who just contacted me today, and you wouldn't believe who I just spoke with today, like how it's gonna go, and like this is what's gonna happen, and I'm just like, thank you for keeping me in the loop. This is incredible how it's just flowing in this direction. And
Yeah.
but it was almost like as soon as the doors opened, they started coming.
Right.
And so the updates that you share with me, I just kind of am like, holy crap. I feel like I'm on a roller coaster with you.
Right.
And I don't know where I'm going to be putting my practice into this, like how I'm going to be doing this. I'm figuring it out along the way also right now, but I'm just listening and I'm like, Andrew, it's like in my head, I'm like, it's happening.
Right.
This is wild to me.
It is really, because it did just, I mean, as soon as we opened, it was just like a snowball effect. People just kept coming out of the woodwork, willing to donate their time, in most cases, just to teach the community. How awesome is that?
Right. And a lot that, you spoke about, I can absolutely connect with. And that's, what I'm hearing you say is you're connected to, and it sounds like really inspiring a sense of community because you didn't have that.
Right.
And you want others to, or you're hoping that others can get connected in the same way, whether it's with, a witchcraft community, an astral travel community, or, a tarot community, or everyone involved, and they're just keeping their minds open and they're just saying, you know what, this is just a great place and I feel very much a part of something, like at least that's how I connected to what you said.
Right.
But
No,
go ahead.
that's accurate. I mean, and I think that's one of my favorite things is when we have people who have already started along their path, whatever it is, witchcraft or magic or whatever. It's not really important. The fact is that when they start hearing these other people talk about their path, they want to know more, they want to be included in it. And that's the whole idea. I mean, you can never learn everything about the occult, and that's just the beauty of it.
It is. I was literally, so I'm going to let you guys know something really quick. Like I said, I'm a pretty bold person, and I just kind of go for it. And so that's why we're on my cell phone right now with my old podcast equipment, because I used to have a podcast. And like I said, I've tried it, but that's one thing that I'm going through currently, and you're witnessing, is I'm going through the alchemical process where I'm trying out all sorts of shit. And it is like, it's almost like I feel like I'm putting chemicals together, right? And like we're gonna see like what concoction works, and it like freaking blows up in my face, and I'm like, okay, go back to the grind. So like right now you're witnessing my old equipment plus some of his equipment on my cell phone with like no plan.
No.
I was just
No,
like,
let's
Andrew,
just do it.
I was like, I just need to get something on as a conversation, and we're just gonna see where this goes, because that's really kind of the process, you know?
Absolutely.
And it's all about, that's the one thing that, frustrates me about, like, can I just be bold to say, human behavior is that people shy away from being that courageous lion, like in The Wizard of Oz. Like you're gonna have to go through a journey to really discover yourself. And that's really the whole baseline of my practice, is self-discovery, the hero's journey, like recognizing who you are. And you can dabble in many things, but you've got to flipping try. And so that's why, like, I feel like everyone that has been in my life has been witnessing me do these like trial and errors, and it's been really frustrating. But today, here we are on camera, just again trying something else, and let's see what sticks. Let's throw the spaghetti noodle. We're both Italian.
Right.
I'm half Hispanic, but he's, you're half Scottish, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's connect on the Italian part. Let's get the noodles out of the boiling water and throw it on the wall and see what flipping sticks. So that's kind of where I feel like we were at. And I was like, you know what? We need to get this out. So I wanted to talk about, again, let's be bold. And you guys are going to notice that I'm a little ADD and a little squirrely. And that's probably partially why some of my concoctions don't work.
Right.
And I can throw myself under the bus. It's okay. But in any case, what you're going to know, like being bold, is I kind of want to talk about what that Jehovah Witness put in my mailbox, because I'm like, you know what? Religion is one of the rulers of the world.
For sure.
And I say one of because there's a couple other, or a few other, but we can get so polarized in somebody's verbiage or in somebody's interpretation, or in somebody's opinion, that we stop thinking for ourselves. And that's the part that upsets me about organized religion. I was raised Catholic.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I'm still a devout Christ consciousness follower. But that doesn't mean I have to go on organized religion's way of doing things. But it doesn't mean that there is not something incredible within that text.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, for anyone who's read the Bible, see, that's the thing. Most people actually haven't read the Bible. Most people, especially Catholics, you digest what you know through going to church once a week, and then you might go to a Catholic school, and you might have a religion class, but that's very sanitized, and that's the Bible isn't. Its inception now is not what it was meant to be ever. Not even remotely close. But there's beauty in all religions. It's just unfortunately man, and particularly men, have gone out of their way to destroy it, to use it as a basis of control.
Right. And so that's something that him and I connect on in a very big way is, there's a lot of truth in books. There's a lot of truth in text. There's a lot of truth in all of this. But that's why he kind of opened me up to the idea, because I was just kind of going chaotic in my practice. I had no idea. I'm just going with wherever the flow was. And what do you call yourself?
A chaos occultist.
Right. And he kind of put definition to what I do. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was just kind of like screw it. I want to cuss with the F-bomb, but I'm trying to be mindful of other viewers. And like, I'm a mother, so I have a 5-year-old thinking about what she might be hearing. So I don't want to throw F-bombs too much. But, you know, I'm very connected to him, and we read something and we dissect the crap out of it.
Right.
I've read parts of the Bible, what I'm called to, what I'm drawn to. And I really sit with, what does this mean to me? Right? What does this look like? I'm not going to follow what a priest, a nun, a preacher, anybody, I'm not doing any of that, because then I'm only seeing it through their lens. I'm not seeing it through how I'm designed, right? And that was something that was very prevalent for me to recognize, and you make fun of me,
Yep.
is that I don't like to read books. It's not that I don't, and I've said it even on like Ryan Gable's show, I don't read books, but then like, I mean, in hindsight I do. I don't put a lot of weight in the context, because it's not going to show up the same way for them as it will for me.
Right.
And so that's why I kind of wanted to have this conversation. Like, I got it in the mail and I was like, no, we're going to have a recorded conversation. Andrew, are you ready to do this? And he's like, what's the context? Like, literally just about 20 minutes ago,
Yep.
It's like, what's the context? I'm like, this is what we're doing. And he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
like,
don't argue with her anymore.
we're just going to screw it. We're just going to go for it. Like, it doesn't flipping matter.
Right.
Okay. So without further ado, 20 minutes later, right? So it says, today it seems like it's becoming increasingly harder for families to stay happy together. What would you say is the key to family happiness? So we're talking about building a community. What is family?
Right.
What is it?
Well, family is community. Family's trust and love.
Right. So many people, in my perspective, in my experience, they latch on and become extremely codependent to either blood family, chosen family, so on and so forth. But they're not recognizing that they contribute to that bigger picture. And in my experience, I have been kind of ridiculed for being a person that focuses on inspiring the individual and rather not looking at a community. And I'm like, but you've got to look at how you're infecting or inspiring, or what's the other verbiage? Like how you're impacting a community, how you're impacting a family.
Right.
You know? And so what is your perspective of what would you, going back to that question, what would you say is the key to family happiness?
That's a tough one. I mean, I think love, first and foremost, is a big part of it, but not necessarily all of it, because lots of people love other people. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to stay together. There's a sense of trust that's needed to be there, and understanding and patience that I think in this day and age we're going so fast that we miss so much about each other and about our family as a whole. We're missed connections.
Right. And the way I would say is kind of connecting with what he said is love. But if you don't even know what love is,
Right.
how can you give it if you don't even understand it, what it means to you inside, internally? Like, how do you think, act, and behave, or feel, I should say, because as I think, so I feel, so I act. How I think about love, how I feel about it in my body, how it resonates with me, and then how do I put that into action, right? And so if we're looking at, what's the key to a happy family or family happiness, it's look at yourself. Like, are you even happy? Do you even know how to, be in a loving space? Is your family infected with, like you kind of said, we're fast paced. We're kind of, from what I understood you say, it's almost like we're fragmented. We're pulled in so many different directions. We're not, to me, I think social media has been our downfall.
Yeah.
So not even just social media, but even cell phones. Like, yes, they've allowed us to be more accessible. But then on the flip side of it, it also has created a sense of fear
Right.
because now I can't get a hold of you instantly. And so now I'm freaking thinking about the worst case scenario when you might just be taking a dump.
I was totally going to say that. No, but that's also a really good point, though, too, because what your definition of love is, or trust, or whatever, might not necessarily match that to your partner's. So when you are searching for love as you would define it, and your partner doesn't see love the same way, you're feeling unfulfilled and they're
Right.
feeling like it's miscommunication when the two of you haven't truly sat down and say, like, what is your idea of love first off? Yeah, that's a huge thing. I mean, understanding the other person's perspective.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the biggest thing. I can't remember where I said it. I think I said it. Oh, I said it in my February update. So if you go to February 2024 update, my forecast, that's exactly what I talk about. I was a channeled message, so I don't remember everything, but it was channeled in talking about how systems are going to be crumbling, systems are going to be falling apart. That's going to be in your family, that's going to be in the work environment, that's going to be society as a whole, but not to mention it's also going to be the system within yourself. It's going to fall apart because you have to look at what is. I mean, there's so many people that have already been on the path to figure out, how do they perceive things and how do they, like, does it align with others? But the biggest thing that I said, and I'm not saying it verbatim because I don't remember, but it is about looking at embracing or just know your enemy. I said that in there because I took it in a direction of our stomach is our immune system, and when it sees an invader, it has to study it. It has to understand it in order to be educated in how to heal it and nurture it and take care of it, so that it doesn't affect or eat or infect the body more, right? And so we have to know our family from a perspective that they see the world. They, what's that saying? Like, no, like, keep your enemies close, or keep your friends close, but your
There you
enemies
go.
closer. You have to understand everything from a different perspective so that you can be more educated in the world. And that's why I don't put a lot of value into somebody's verbiage in writing, especially the Bible, because it's been so interpreted in so many flipping ways that we don't know how that person was seeing that context.
Right.
And it's like you've got to go into the heart and, like, into your intuition and understand what all that meant to you, or what is that a possibility of, and it's just possibility.
Right. No, and especially with not just the Catholic Bible, Christian Bible, with a lot of religions. I mean, it's mostly from, at least in my opinion, an insidious control mechanism. It is how you keep a people down, and subjugated, and it's not just about the tithing and the money. It's about true control and power. And I mean, if you actually really read the Bible, Old Testament versus New Testament, I mean, there's nothing but chaos and hypocrisy in it. And those are two different books, but with two vastly different messages.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to go down in the letter to keep us kind of on track with a lack of outline.
Okay. Fair.
Because, like I said, I this is all totally winging it. But the next one says, in the Bible at Luke 11:28, we learn, happy are those hearing the word of God and keeping it. So I want to go to, what is God?
Right. That's a very good question. Because if you're talking about God from a biblical sense, if you're talking about God from an Old Testament sense, yeah, there's a lot of rough parts where God was smiting firstborns, destroying entire planet. Yeah, I mean it's not. Then I don't believe that version of God. I just.
So what not necessarily what do you believe, but what is your perspective of, of what God might be?
I think I think there might be one source of all creation. That makes sense for me, sure. But I also think there are plenty of other little g gods and deities and spirits that can have
Influence.
influence and meddle with our lives. I mean, I don't really care if what names you use to describe God or gods or whatever, but I think for me, there's more than enough evidence to show that there are other beings out there. There are that live at a higher or even lower plane of existence than we do, that are interfering, good or bad, with our world.
Right. And so I'll say, like, my belief, I don't even know if it's a belief, honestly. It's a perspective, because I've sat in meditation and I've gotten some insight. And to me, God begins in the mind. We are our own gods. We all have a brain, and there is a big brain. There is a God head. So it's kind of like we're explaining it a little differently. But to me, like, we are those little G gods, because we're co-creators. And so if everything begins in the mind, and, we're connected to a superconscious, that's how I see it. We have a subconscious, and then we're connected to the superconscious. And I always go back, because that's how I see it. It's like an umbilical cord that is connected to us, and then we track it back to the bigger superconscious. But in that, when I say superconscious, I also question how much of it is actually intelligent consciousness, though,
Right.
because it's using our intelligence to navigate a reality, a physical, tangible reality that is a tangible state of consciousness. So everything here has just become into manifested form. At least this is my perspective. Some of you may not agree with that, and that's okay, because that's what this is about. It's to spread possibility, thought, something to start pondering on, so that you can start possibly considering things in a different manner, and then just possibly just opening the mind a little bit more. So when we go to the happy are those hearing the word of God and keeping it, I mean, we could take that into...
I mean, that says a lot, though. I mean, again, they're coming from a Christian perspective. I mean, did they not read Job? I mean, he had a connection with God and heard God's voice, and he ended up being used as a pawn in a chess game between God and the devil, where Job's family was killed. He was struck down with boils. His home collapsed. He lost everything. But he still had his connection with God.
Okay, so he kept it.
Yeah.
But he was he
Well, he
truly,
lost it, but like then
but
he
was
got
he
it back.
truly happy,
Yeah.
hearing the word of God, and keeping it? And so, like, where my mind kind of goes is, it just kind of goes to keep your word, because if we are gods in it of itself, we're co-creating this reality. Then keep your word. Stop being a flake.
Yeah.
If you're a flake, which I'm human, I can throw myself under the bus. I know I have been that. But because I've been functioning at a low frequency, or I've been functioning in survival mode, or I've been fragmented and not being able to create this community in a sense within myself. Mm-hmm. And so I haven't been able to even keep my own word, because I'm trying to figure all the pieces out. And I don't know how many of you have felt that way, but like, be brave to say it. Go in the comments, like, talk about it. That's what this is all about, is just to have a space where people can just hopefully feel safe enough and vulnerable enough, or I shouldn't say safe and brave enough to be vulnerable and just say, like, this is my flipping perspective. And if you guys don't like it, that's okay, because, like, why do we put so much value on somebody else's opinion about us?
Right.
So go ahead.
I would say too that I like what you said, because I think that's one of the biggest examples of the human condition is failure. I get a lot of people are so worried about failure, not necessarily just from themselves having to admit that they failed, but from their perspective of the community around them, of how they will see them as a failure. But I tell anyone who's a magician or witch that failure is an absolute necessity. You must fail. Yeah, that's part of it. It's the biggest part of it, really.
It is. I mean, I've called Andrew many times, and I just, like I've told him before, like I feel like the biggest failure. And it just keeps happening. And I don't know what the hell, like when am I going to catch a flipping break? I'm trying. But I'm what did you kind of, I'm a chaotic occultist. I don't read freaking books. I just practice and I look and I try and I go. And so whether you're reading books, whether you're doing it, without books and you're just trying, like just keep going, because for those of you who have followed me since 2013 in my own practice when I was just starting, you guys will have seen me up and down and trying to figure this whole thing out without a business coach, without, a tax consultant, without anything, and without, just people with experience. And there's a lot of failure along the way. But luckily I have somebody here who had it figured out in many aspects. And he's been assisting me in that. And it's just like, you got to be brave. You got to keep going. And we can't allow the sickness in the mind that, is the negative thinking. And I actually just had this conversation with my 5-year-old. I was like, if you think about it this way, remember how you were in the hospital with RSV? And she was like, yeah. And I said, okay, that is a physical, or like, that's how you were sick. If you keep thinking this way in a negative way, your mind will get as sick as that, and not necessarily put in the hospital, but some people go to that point where they have to get institutionalized because their mind is sick. And I didn't tell her in that like big profound way. I tried to make it as 5-year-old as I could. But ever since then, she recognizes I'm thinking negative, and I keep telling her, keep the mind healthy, keep the mind healthy. This is a sad experience, but what's the positive? So it's a work in progress, right? But hold to that. Because happy are those hearing the word, which is the word that we want to hold within ourselves, and keep it. That is my perspective of what that is. And I truly, I mean, again, maybe this is really bold, and I'm being brave to say that I personally think that the Bible is an autobiography of our lives. And it's meant for us to kind of interpret it through our own lens, not through somebody else's. But that's
That can make sense.
Sorry if I'm talking a lot.
No, it's okay. I'm used to it. You're fine. I was talking. Help me.
Yeah. Shut up. So let's see. I have enclosed, and let's see. Show the living out. Okay. Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah.
So I really thought that we could start in a bold way talking to, at least I want to talk to people from their perspective of the occult, from their perspective of their esoteric practices, their esoteric knowledge, and just kind of see how they're moving through the world, how they're understanding it. Because, I mean, does anybody have it right?
No.
Oh, I thought you were going to be arrogant and say, yeah, I do.
My brain said that, but I didn't say it out loud.
Yeah.
100%, I swear. My brain said that.
All right. So just a little self-promotion. Andrew, why don't you tell us about what's coming up in March?
Okay. In March, we have 3 tarot classes, but those are booked. So I'm just showing off that they're booked. We have an intro to hoodoo class. That's going to be awesome. We don't have the signups for that just yet, but we're working on it. We have an occult symbolism class with local author and radio host Ryan Gable, which will be huge. And then in April, we have astral projection, necromancy.
I'm excited for the astral projection.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And Black Mirror scrying. So for more information, just go to nexusoccult.com. There's a tab at the top that says classes, and you can see all the classes we have coming up.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening in, guys. I hope it was helpful for you and maybe just kind of planted some seeds for you. And I guess until I get the next hair up my butt, just do something random.
Wow.
Yeah, you're going to learn. I'm pretty quirky and kind of weird. Yeah, it's kind of fun. But yeah, like who's to say
What's wrong with you? Good Lord.
Until next time, guys, take care.
Bye.